Erica Kirk was introduced to Charlie Kirk through Donald Trump. She had been procured for like Donald Trump's pageants. She won like Miss Arizona or something. She was literally like a registered actress and starred in a reality TV show, a romance one at that. He met her on a trip to Israel. Charlie met her on one of these wall hung.
The narration opens by framing Erica Kirk's entrance into Charlie Kirk's world as anything but ordinary. It links her to Donald Trump's orbit, pageants, acting, and reality television, then pivots to the claim that her relationship with Charlie began under suspicious circumstances after they met in Israel. From there, the story escalates fast. Leaked wedding footage, online scrutiny, and growing speculation that Charlie may have seemed uneasy on his wedding day. Rather than presenting a clear answer, the voiceover builds tension by stacking possibilities: cold feet, image mismatch, or something more calculated, setting up the central mystery of the video. The next section shifts into character contrast, arguing that Erica's life story stood in sharp opposition to the values Charlie publicly promoted. The narration emphasizes her age, education, professional ambition, and later rise to leadership, painting a picture of a woman whose resume and choices challenge the traditional expectations Charlie often championed. By laying out her degrees, career steps, and independent identity, the voiceover strengthens the idea that this was not an obvious ideological match, but a pairing filled with contradiction from the start. The story then widens to Erica's background, tying her drive and ambition to the example set by her mother and to a life shaped by work, travel, branding, pageants, and media exposure. The narration presents Erica as deeply career-focused, polished, and publicly visible, someone far removed from the quiet traditional image the video claims Charlie admired. By the end of the section, that contrast becomes the point. Despite everything that suggested mismatch, their first supposed professional meeting is portrayed as turning almost instantly into romantic pursuit, giving the story a sudden and dramatic turn.
You're thinking it's a business interview.
It started that way.
Right. So we sit down and you grill me for what, 3 hours?
Yeah.
Easily. On philosophy, politics,
Culture.
religion, culture.
Economics.
What else? Everything else you can imagine, he grilled me. Anything he talks about on his podcast show, he grilled me on. Pretty much.
Just didn't record it.
And then afterwards, he got finished with his burger and he just sat there and he looked at me and he's like, you know what? I'm not going to hire you. And I was like, that's fine. I don't need this job. I'm doing plenty of other things here in Manhattan. He's like, I'm going to date you. And you want to take it from there?
And you said you were kind of confused.
Of course I was confused.
It is reported that months prior to Erica's supposed
Here, the narration introduces Tyler Bohr as a key connective force behind the relationship. According to the story, Tyler had already been building Erica up in Charlie's mind, not just praising her accomplishments, but framing her as someone far beyond his reach. That detail adds a competitive edge to the narrative, suggesting that what followed may have been fueled as much by challenge and ego as by chemistry. This section reframes the relationship as something that may have been building long before Charlie and Erica officially connected. The narration claims that Erica and her mother had been trying to cross paths with Charlie for years, and it uses the airport story as evidence of a much longer arc, one the video presents as too perfectly timed to be accidental. By repeating the idea that nothing is by mistake, the voiceover leans into destiny on the surface, while quietly hinting at planning underneath.
But the first time with my mother on a pilgrimage. And I was standing in the ticket line. And I remember looking behind me. And in the snake of the ticket line was a guy who looked very familiar. I had no idea who he was. And I told my mom, this guy looks so familiar. And as a typical mother, she said, go and say hi. No. We were late for our flight, and I'm not going to come off like a crazy person with that's just weird. That ended up being Charlie. Nothing is
And here is where the fairy tale starts to crack. Because once you strip away the romance, the Israel pilgrimage, the coincidental airport encounter, and the whirlwind proposal, what you're left with is a timeline that doesn't quite add up. And a woman whose behavior before and after Charlie Kirk's death tells two very, very different stories. Let's talk about that first. While Charlie was alive, Erica Kirk was the picture-perfect conservative wife. And we mean perfect, almost suspiciously so. Sources close to the situation describe her as almost entirely behind the scenes, mostly home with the kids, rarely making waves. When she did appear publicly alongside Charlie, she showed up stripped, down, minimal makeup, minimal jewelry, hair worn down, simple capsule wardrobe. That signature clean girl aesthetic that fit neatly inside the image Charlie had spent years building for himself and his brand. She blended in. She didn't outshine. She supported. And for a woman with her background, the runways, the pageants, the television appearances, the brand deals, the real estate license, the degrees, that kind of deliberate simplicity is a choice, a calculated one. Because women like Erica Kirk don't accidentally downplay themselves. They know exactly what they're doing and exactly why. So the question becomes, why? Why would a woman who had spent years building a career, traveling the world, walking major runways and building businesses, suddenly shrink herself into the role of the quiet, traditional, stay-at-home conservative wife? The kind of wife Charlie Kirk publicly told women they should aspire to be? The cynical answer? Because that was the role the situation required. And then Charlie died, and the mask, if there was one, came off almost immediately. Almost overnight, sources began, noting a dramatic shift in Erica's public presentation. Gone was the bare face and the understated wardrobe. Suddenly, she was showing up decked out, Super Bowl-level jewelry, heavy makeup, outfits that sent the internet into a full spiral. A grieving widow, by most traditional definitions, is not typically the person commanding the most attention in the room. But Erica? Erica was present, unapologetically, visibly, loudly present. Now, to be fair, grief looks different for everyone. We won't pretend to know what losing a spouse feels like. But when the internet notices a shift this dramatic, this fast, and this consistent, with a larger pattern of behavior that people had already been tracking, it stops being a coincidence and starts being a conversation. And that conversation is now getting louder by the day. Because here's what sources, reportedly those close to Charlie's sister Mary, are now allegedly claiming. Erica didn't just enter Charlie's life. She engineered her way into it, piece by piece, step by step, with a level of patience and precision that, depending on how you look at it, is either deeply impressive or deeply alarming. Think about the full picture for a moment. First, there were allegedly years of trying to connect with Charlie organically. Her and her mother Lori both. Then came the airport story. That perfectly timed near encounter in the ticket line in Israel, where Erica says she noticed a familiar-looking man and almost introduced herself, only to find out years later that it was Charlie. A story she now tells with a smile and the words, "Nothing is by coincidence." Then came Tyler Bohr, who sources allege was whispered to by Erica's camp, encouraged to sing her praises to Charlie, and tasked with planting the seed of interest. And not just interest, challenge. Because Tyler reportedly didn't just tell Charlie that Erica was great. He told Charlie she was out of his league. And if you know anything about how ego works, especially in competitive, high-achieving men, you know that framing a woman as unattainable is one of the most powerful ways to make a man want to prove you wrong. And then, according to these sources, when they finally did start dating, Erica allegedly didn't slow down. The pressure reportedly continued, with the clock ticking, because she was older, because she wanted kids, because time was a factor she was well aware of. She allegedly pushed for commitment. Pushed for the ring, pushed for marriage. I'm not getting any younger. Those words, according to sources, were allegedly part of the pressure campaign that led Charlie Kirk, the man who told millions of women to marry young, stay home, skip. The career embraced tradition, to walk down the aisle with a woman who was the living, breathing opposite of everything he claimed to want. And now, with Charlie gone, Erika sits at the top of Turning Point USA, CEO, in charge, exactly where a woman of her ambition, her education, her drive, and her relentless work ethic would naturally want to be. Was it planned? Was it a honeypot? Was it love that evolved into something complicated? Was it just two imperfect people navigating a very public life? We don't have all the answers yet, and we want to be clear. These are allegations, claims from sources, a story still being pieced together. But the details keep stacking up, the timeline keeps raising questions, and the online community keeps digging. And here, at this channel, we're going to keep bringing you every single piece of this story as it drops. So here's what we need from you right now. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think Erica Kirk orchestrated this from the beginning? Do you think the shift in her behavior after Charlie's death means something? Or do you think this is all being blown out of proportion? Tell us. Because your perspective matters, and this conversation is just getting started. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and do not sleep on the next video because the allegations against Erica Kirk, they get even heavier from here. You've been warned.